Splitboarding can seem both complicated and confusing when you're first starting out. So make sure to follow these 5 beginner tips and tricks to make the learning process of splitboarding that much easier. Starting off with tip number 1 is always make sure your gear is set up properly. When a lot of people are starting out splitboarding, they assume the left side of their snowboard is their left ski, but you actually switch them when you're going uphill. If you don't switch them, you're more prone to banging the edges and tips of your skis when traveling uphill. When you are starting out, always remember the left side of your board will become your right ski and the right side of your snowboard will become your left ski. This gives you a straighter edge on the outside of your ski, which allows you to dig your edge in when you're side hill traversing. Additionally, make sure your bindings are on the proper foot. Whether uphilling or shredding, your ratchets should never be on the inside of your boot. You always want these to be strapped to the outside of your boot so that your boot is properly fitting in your binding. An easy way to remember this is just as the tips of your skis will be pointing towards the outsides, your ratchets on your bindings should also be on the outsides. The last thing to remember to have your gear properly set is to make sure your bindings are ready for uphill travel. Most bindings, including Spark, Karakoram, and Union, have an adjustment on the high back that allows for more rear angle so that you can take easier, longer strides when you're touring. If you forget to do this, it'll just be less comfortable when you're touring. And we're trying to give you the best time you can have when you're splitboarding. When you're going to rip your run, don't forget that your bindings will still strap to the outside with the buckles on the outside of your foot. And don't forget to readjust your high back so it's ready for snowboard mode. If you forget to do this, you won't have the forward lean you typically have when you're snowboarding, and it'll be harder to turn. Now for tip number 2, do not step when you're splitboarding. If you're lifting your feet and your skis off the snow, you might as well just be snowshoeing. This is a simple beginner mistake because when you get out there for the first time, you're excited and you want to feel like you're hiking around. But you'll wear yourself out lifting the weight of the ski each time you step. Instead, use the power of your skin and slide your feet as you're moving. This may be the one thing you need to get used to if you're touring for the first time, but trust the strength of your skin. What you'll want to do is lift your heel as you're moving forward and slide your toe forward. You can think of this more as a sliding step, and this will save you more energy while you're traveling through the backcountry. If you're setting a track in deeper powder snow, you may find you have to lift the tip of your ski above the top of the snow. Otherwise, you'll constantly be burying the nose of your skis as you're moving. This of course takes more work to break trail, but you'll want to stick to either your partner's skin track or an older skin track that is going in the same direction you are traveling. For tip number 3, always make sure you have a planned route and that you're bringing that mapped out route with you in the backcountry. Whenever I go out, I have onX backcountry maps with me. Before I head out, I'll use onX on the desktop to research and plan where I'll want to splitboard. I can then download an offline map of the route I planned to have on my phone for when I'm out in the field. So instead of trying to remember features that I saw in the planning process from the map, I always have it on my phone to know we are always on the right track. onX has a ton of awesome features to help when you're planning, with mapping layers such as slope angle to visualize the pitch of certain runs you'll be riding and climbing, slope aspect to easily see whether the runs you'll be on are north, east, south, or west facing, as well as a bunch of other layers to help you see the potential an avalanche may have in the terrain you'll be traveling through. On the map, you can also find important tools like snow tell stations, which are points in the backcountry that record the weather and amounts of snow at any certain time. Save 20% off your own membership for onX by using code SOS20 at checkout at onxmaps.com, or simply follow the link in the description for that same 20% off. For tip number 4, let's get into one of the most dreaded aspects of beginner splitboarding, and that's steep hills. Most beginner splitboarders find it really difficult to climb up steeper hills. They might find themselves slipping backwards and falling down very easily. This happens when someone is climbing and putting the weight on their toes. That doesn't give the skin enough grip, and that'll cause you to slip backwards immediately. To counteract this, you'll want to climb with the weight in your heels. Take small steps as you climb to ensure that you keep the weight in your heels. This will better position yourself to allow your skin to have a better grip on the steep snow. Additionally, you'll want as much of the skin grabbing the snow as possible. So if there's a slight roll or convexity, you won't have as much grip on your skin. try and get in a position where the majority of your skin will be grabbing the snow. Also keep in mind, sometimes the person breaking trail can have more grip in fresh snow. If you're following somebody else's track, it may be more slick when you are on those steep sections. So keep this in mind as you keep your momentum moving, taking small steps, and keeping the weight in your heels. This, of course, is something that'll come better with practice the more you go out in the mountains. Tip number 5 is to be mindful when you're transitioning at the top of your line. After you've worked hard climbing for your run, you may be very quick to get your gear together to snowboard down as quickly as you can. But make sure you're being smart and you take your time. When I reach the top, one thing I like to do is step out an area with my skis. Once I've cleared some snow, I'll step out of my bindings and again step out another area with my feet. This helps to create a little bit of a working space. I now have a little snow bench where I can more easily transition my gear. Be mindful of the snow and where you put your gear as you are switching over. If you throw your bindings in the snow, the bases can get more iced up and make it more difficult to put your bindings on your board. Instead, make sure they are clear of snow before you set them down and place them base up so they don't get loaded with more snow and ice. Always carry a mini scraper with you so that you can remove any excess snow or ice on your bindings. This will make it easier to both put your skis back together as a snowboard and to put your bindings on easier on your board. It's important to do the switchover of all your gear the first thing you do when you get to the top. That means removing your skins, putting your board back together, your bindings on your board, and stowing your poles. If you do this first, your body will be much more warmed up, so you don't have cold fingers messing with gear when you need your hands the most. When you're all set, you now have a nice snow bench to take a seat on with your snowboard, and then you can enjoy your snack, some water, and the view you earned. Getting into splitboarding is so exciting because it allows you so much easier access to bigger mountains and just walking around in the woods in the snow. Make sure to check out my full comprehensive guide for getting into splitboarding, which includes gear maintenance and the best practices for using everything you need. You can watch that video right here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see you somewhere on the mountain. Peace.